Good morning, everyone, and thanks again for joining us on another weekly webinar. Today is kind of a special day. We're going to be going over, instead of our usual workshop material, we're going to be previewing some new features. Zach is away, so it looks like today I'm going to be running the entire show, and I'd like to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what I've been working on, including these new function nodes that we're very excited about, as well as some stuff that we've put into 1.06. Right now 1.05 is our current version, and 1.06 is scheduled for release very shortly, within a week or two. But before I begin, we're just going to start with our traditional poll here. And I just want to get a feel for, again, like who here has had experience with our software, who's new to NinjaTrader. I can see in the audience there, I've got some pretty familiar faces and some faces I haven't actually seen in a little while now. So it's nice to see some of you guys come back. Tom, I haven't seen you in the webinar for a little while, and I'm glad you could make it. Can you guys just want to do a mic check as well? I want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. Just type yes in the question and answers there of the chat if I'm come through okay, if I'm a little bit too loud, or if you can hear me all right. All right, sounds good. So I've had the disclaimer up there for a little while. Hopefully you had a chance to check it out. And then just waiting for some more poll results to come in. But again, those of you guys that are just joining us right now, Zach is away, and I'm going to be running the webinar. And we're going to be having a little bit of fun this morning, again, looking at some new stuff that we've been working on. And, a lot of this stuff is has to do with the feedback that you guys as users have been giving us, which has been absolutely invaluable. Always welcome feedback, positive or negative, just ways to improve the product. And, ultimately the software obviously is for you guys, and we want you guys to be able to use it to its full potential and help you with your trading. So if there's certain things that BloodHound is not doing at the moment for you, and it's holding you back, we definitely want to know about that so we can implement these things. Okay, so looks like we've got our poll results. Vast majority of you guys have pretty much split down the middle there. Looks like either half of you guys are new to BloodHound, and half of you have been using it for a little while. So some of the stuff, for those of you that have been using it for a while, you'll definitely appreciate some of the new things that we put in here. And for new folks, here's a kind of a preview of what BloodHound can do for you. So again, this workshop won't concentrate on sort of basic concepts and whatnot, and so a little, don't be afraid to ask questions and whatnot. But if I'm going a little fast, I'm sort of skipping over a little bit of concepts. Don't worry about it too much. Again, these are kind of new features, and some I'll sort of make the assumption that you have some basic knowledge of how to use the software. But just for the benefit of those people that are brand new, BloodHound, again, it's a programmable indicator that allows you to create trade systems from scratch using your criteria. These trade systems you can eventually trade in fully automated trading. You could sort of perform fully automated trading, or you can use it as a kind of a filter engine to filter trades and ease the pain of sort of having to look at dozens and dozens of indicators and find out where you want to put your entries in. Okay, so anyway, today we are going to go over some of the stuff that we're putting into 1.06. The other title slide that you just saw there was 1.1. So 1.1 is kind of our, I guess you could say, our next leap. 1.06 is sort of just a smaller leap, and that code is kind of in the can, and we're just it's out there right now in beta, and some of you guys have received an email to try 1.06. There are some minor additions and little features in there that I think you'll find some really nice stuff. The biggest thing, of course, is the advanced trade management support for NinjaTrader, and I'll be going over with you guys what that is if you're not familiar with NinjaTrader's ATM and how it relates to BloodHound, and I'll give you a little bit of demo on how you can incorporate NinjaTrader's ATM with your auto-traded system. Okay. Of course, we're going to go over these new function nodes, which you guys will be the very first people to ever see. Of course, this is the first time we've ever announced this or even released this information to the public, and we think this adds a lot of powerful functionality to the systems that you can build in BloodHound. So we're very excited about that. Lastly, we're going to go over some of the licensing changes that we've got on the table, and will be implemented when 1.06 is released. Okay, so let's talk about the AutoTrade ATM. What the heck is it? Well, it's a NinjaTrader specific feature, actually, that allows you to manage positions in a more advanced method than just simply putting on your stops and targets, or sorry, your profit target and your stop loss. And this is kind of what NinjaTrader is definitely known for, is this ability to sort of pre-program in your stops strategy. Okay, so maybe you've got something like, well, I want to put on like 4 positions on. I want to take 2 off when I reach a certain level of profit, and I want the last 2 to trail and capture those long trends and sort of trail up when I hit certain profit targets. And so NinjaTrader's got the ability to do that, and what we've just done with 1.06 is allowed you to tie in to that functionality. Okay, so you can now take your ATMs that you've pre-programmed, or I wouldn't say programmed, sorry, pre-configured, because there's no programming involved, and now you can use BloodHound to do your entries automated, and then use NinjaTrader's ATM to manage the trade from there. So actually, let's go back here, and I'm gonna just pardon me, give you a small demo here on the NinjaTrader ATM. So on my monitor here, I've got 2 screens. So the one little quirk about NinjaTrader is the automated strategies cannot be sort of run on the same chart as your manual trader. So as you can see on my right-hand chart here in the black, I've got my manual trader on. So those of you that are actually, it looks like everybody here is pretty much familiar with NinjaTrader to some degree. So this is the manual trader, and what I've done here is I've configured the sample ATM strategy, and again, this is all built into NinjaTrader, and you can see I've got here this particular one puts on 4 positions, 4 contracts, 3 of which are designated with a 10-10 tick profit and stop loss, and then I've got one here that's kind of a runner that will have a wider stop at 20 and attempt to capture profit at around 50. And then furthermore, within that stop strategy, I've told it to basically, give me a break-even stop when you hit 15 ticks of profit, break-even plus 1, that is, and start stepping up the stop loss kind of in a trailing fashion, not like your traditional trail. This is a neat little feature that NinjaTrader has, and that's the ability to step your trailing stop up in sort of discrete steps. So I'm basically telling it every 5 ticks that I get a profit. After the 20th tick of profit, put me 10 ticks below my current price. So that let's just see what that actually looks like. So I've got basically simulated data here. Okay, so again, this is not live data, so this chart probably will not correspond to if you're looking at the actual market right now. This is the crude oil on a 5 range, and I'm just gonna do a sell there, and as you can see, NinjaTrader has immediately put up my 10-10 stops, my 10 stop loss and 10 profit target put 3 positions on there, and then put my runner. This is my runner, and that's the profit target for the runner. And I'm just gonna go through and just pop the trend down just to show you what it looks like when we start trailing the stop in there. All right, so on the 5 range, this shouldn't take too long. All right, so it's the first target there, and when I hit, as you recall, 20 ticks of profit, we'll start seeing we'll start to see it. There's the auto break even kicking in there, and when I hit about 20 ticks, which I believe is kind of around this area right here, we'll start seeing the trailing stop basically cash in at 5-step increments. So that's why you saw that nice big jump there. And while we're doing that, I just want to pull up. This is NinjaTrader's website. To learn more about these NinjaTrader AMs, they've got some fantastic support. They've got as well a webinar that you can attend. Again, these are all free, and this happens pretty much once a week. And you just go to their site, hit webinars, look at the one that's ATM level 1. I think they've got some more advanced ones as well. And you go ahead and just attend the webinar. But anyways, enough of that. So now that I've shown you what the ATM can do here, I'm going to show you how to use it with BloodHound. Okay, so on the bottom here, and actually what I'll do is just show you how I start this off. So I go to my chart here, and there's many ways to add a strategy to your chart. You can I just right-click it and add strategy, and SI Raven is the one you're looking for. So SI Raven again now supports NinjaTrader ATMs, and what you're going to notice here is after you've okay, so those of you that are new with BloodHound works with configurable templates. Okay, so you create your kind of your description in terms of your system with a template file. And once you've got this file done, you save it, and now you can load it into strategies and whatnot. So I've already preloaded one here called the just simple 1030 cross, nothing fancy here. This particular one, and those this should be pretty familiar because we like to use this example a lot. But this is just a simple crossover where you have the 10 moving average going above the 30 moving average. That's basically a long signal, and the 10 moving average moving below the 30 moving average being a short signal. So the new feature here is under trade management, and previously, if you see, if I go back to default, this was kind of the old trade management system here, and you can see that this is where you would put your profit and stop targets. But now you have a little drop down there, and you select ATM, and as you can see, I've got my ATM here. I've just called it my ATM 2. So that's what I've written here is my ATM2. That just tells SI Raven that the ATM strategy I want to use is my ATM2. Okay, so I've got that there. I'm going to enable it, and you can see BloodHound immediately marks historically the where the trade entries would have been. So these are the crossing conditions. And a thing to note about ATMs is ATMs are not back testable. Okay, that's just unfortunately a limitation of NinjaTrader. But ATM strategies are not back testable. So unfortunately, you can't just kind of go in here and right click and analyze the performance. But a good way to sort of again see the viability of your system, just simply use SI Raven without the ATM, using your just punch in your stop values right into the parameters of the SI Raven, and that you can get your back testing results that way. So let's go ahead and trigger a trader. So I'm going to move the trend up here and try to get this this orange line up to cross with this 30 line here. And hopefully being on a 5 range, that won't take too long. Alright, so we're slowly climbing up there, so remember we gotta wait till this this line actually crosses above. I guess while I'm waiting, if there's any questions you guys might have, go ahead and just type them in, and I'll do my best to answer them. So again, this is a 1.06 feature that we're looking at, and of course by extension that will be in 1.1 as well. Alright, we're getting pretty close here. So again, the reason why I've got two charts open, on the left hand side is the chart with SI Raven in it, and with NinjaTrader, as soon as you activate basically a chart with a strategy on it, you can see that this chart trader is now grayed out, so I cannot open that up. So we're going to see the position take, and I'm actually going to go down here and look at the orders that come in. Okay, there it goes. So the ATM is now fired. On the right hand chart, this is where I've got the chart trader, and that's why these are visible. And you can see the orders are working down here, and this is in simulator. Between simulator and the NinjaTrader does an amazing job with the simulator. There's practically no difference between simulated performance and the actual performance. So the only difference with this simulated connection here is I can control the direction of the market. So obviously having a beautiful trend like this is an absolute dream, and probably doesn't occur too often. But as you can see, so SI Raven is taken in and actually put on the trade and put on the ATM, and actually you can, just like any other ATM, you can actually go in and you can manipulate it manually like so. So I'm moving near the stops. NinjaTrader's triggers will probably take over as soon as the profit targets are hit. But this works just like any other ATM. So there we go. That's the break even. And we'll just let that go, but I think you guys get the idea. And I just want to point out a few other really minor changes to 1.06 while that is going on this screen here. Okay, so that one's about to hit this profit target. But all right, let's see who's sharp enough to catch this. All right, so I've got I'm in what we call real-time mode. Again, that's the mode where you can manipulate your system and change your template and construct whatever logic you'd like in real time on your chart. And immediately, if you're sharp enough to catch it, okay, so that thing just finished off. I'm just going to shut that down for a second here. All right, now this has been sort of a, unfortunately, a bit of a source of confusion for some new users and whatnot, and it's this chart button. All right, in real-time mode, this chart button used to not be here, and the reason why is sort of technical, and it's just because it's sort of a limitation with NinjaTrader on the indicator side, is if you add sort of multiple time frames to your system, NinjaTrader requires kind of a refresh or reload to load up the new data. So we can't just start adding new time frames and start calculating immediately. So what we've done instead now is you can add new time frames. So in this particular system here, it uses the default time frame, which is the time frame that the BloodHound is actually running on, which in this case is the 5 range. And I'm using some information as well from the 5-minute time frame. But say I wanted to add another time frame, I can add the 1 minute now while it's running, which is something you couldn't do before 1.06. I can go in and I can change, and I can, say I want to add a 600 tick. Actually, that's going to take a little while to load, so let's try something a little bit less computationally intense. Let's do a 10 range. And also note, these used to be listed before, and actually I don't have any on this system, but now we do support custom charts or custom time frames. So if you have, say you downloaded, yeah, Randy, you caught that one. Good job. That's what I want to point out again. If you downloaded like a a new custom chart from like Big Mike's Trading or something like that, you can, yeah, BloodHound will now pick those up and use those properly. But as you can see, I added the time frame, and away we go. You didn't have to do any sort of fancy restarting of the indicator, or sort of not restarting, but going to the indicator panel and hitting OK. We just have to hit the F5 button, and we're off to the races. So that's something that we've added, which I guess for most new users, that sort of be like, well, why wasn't that before? So that's something I guess it's sort of expected. So all right, so let's continue here, and let me get back to where I was. So that's the NinjaTrader ATM with BloodHound. All right, what are these function nodes that we're talking about? All right, so with BloodHound, this is a review for those of you that are familiar with BloodHound already, but with BloodHound, again, we have a couple ways to get data and a couple ways to put together your system. All right, the first step you're familiar with is what we call these confidence solvers, and these are those, I guess you can almost think of them as like data inspectors. They go in and they look at like indicator values, they look at the chart, they look at swing patterns, that sort of thing. So they're kind of like what you could sort of think of them as your source of data. Okay, this is gathering information from your charts, and the vast majority of you guys use indicators to trade. So you'd be looking obviously at indicator values. What are the indicators doing? Are they crossing over each other? Are they above? Is the price above this level or that level? That's where all the information comes from. Is the solvers. The second stage is you take this information, the solvers, and this currently is an optional stage. But if you want to get really complex, you can start using and or logic nodes to combine things. So say, again, to go back to our example, say we had the 1030 cross, all right, and that's your signal entry. But say you wanted to do it only when you're above the 100 EMA. So the price has to be above the 100 EMA, and at the same time you want to be crossing the 1030 line, say above it, to go long. So what you would do is you take two confidence solvers, put one that looks at the 100 EMA, put the other one to look at the crossover, and then tie them together with an AND logic node. So that would ensure that both conditions are correct before taking the trade. So now, but there were some limitations with that. So now what we've done is I'm just going to move the mic a little bit further away from here. I'm just getting a message here that I'm a little bit loud. Just let me know if I'm fading away or I'm too quiet for you guys. Now we have these things called function nodes. Okay, and function nodes are more complex than the other two nodes before it. What they do is they allow you to do, some mathematics or some, they allow you to, well, first of all, they give you an incredible amount of flexibility with the information that comes in. Okay, so no longer just ANDing and ORing stuff. Now you can actually process the signals that come in, and you can look back into the past and see what happened. You got things like a toggle. You can extend signals. And most importantly, these have a little more function, a little more power in terms of they can examine past data, whereas the AND and OR nodes, they couldn't do that. They were just sort of looking, kind of existing in the moment. They couldn't look at past values, and that's a subtle but very powerful change. So, a lot of this may not make sense until I kind of give you a little bit of rundown. But these are the different function nodes we've got. Okay, so the counting node. Let me just back up here. The counting node allows you to count number of signals. So it allows you to do things like, well, all right, Okay, I want to know. I want to signal when when the current price, or I want the last 3 bars to be above the EMA 100. Okay, so previously we could only sort of do you could do that with BloodHound as it is. It just there's sort of a roundabout way to do it, and it's fairly difficult. You have to use displacements and whatnot. But we were good at detecting, hey, we're above the 100 EMA, but we weren't so good at detecting, okay, are we above the 100 EMA for 3 bars in a row? So now we have a counting node that allows you to do that. We have a signal blocker, and this is a very useful node. For those of you that have constructed systems for a little bit of time, I've noticed that, hey, I got the signal firing, but I've got I got the signal firing twice in a row, and one bar after another. When obviously you don't want any sort of double entry or anything like that to happen, and you maybe want to clean up your signals. What you can do is you can put a signal blocker in there and just ensure that you got one signal that comes across, and then have it maybe reset later a few bars down the road or under certain conditions. Okay. Conversely, we have something called a signal extender. Okay, and so those of you guys that have tried building systems where you're using multiple time frames may have noticed that say you're trying to time a signal on one time frame and a signal on another time frame, and you kind of want them to be, again, to go back with the simple examples of the 100 EMA, say you want to be above the 100, you just want to cross above the 100 EMA on the 5-minute time frame, and you want something else to cross, say, on your trading time frame. It's very rare that those two will actually be in sync with each other. And so we have something called a signal extender that allows you to sort of, extend the lifetime, I guess, of the signal so that you can synchronize them a little easier. They're also useful for things like, okay, well, I want to be above the 100 EMA. That gives me a permission to go long, but I only want that permission to exist for 5 bars. Okay, no more than 5 bars. Any more than 5 bars, and I want that permission off. So you can basically have the signal extender extend that crossover signal for 5 bars only, and then mash it up with something else. Okay, so we also have something called long and short manipulation, which kind of allows you to crisscross the long and short data. If you recall, BloodHound makes basically is always dual calculating. All right, it's always calculating the long side and it's always calculating the short side. So the long and short manipulator allows you to traditionally those two, long and short calculations never crossed over. You never saw kind of, the long side ever influence the short side. But there are certain instances where you'd like to actually do that. And so I'll give you an example on why you'd like to do that. We have a look back node as well that will basically you can use that as a displacement, so you can look back at past signals and past confidence values. Grab a maximum, minimum value, an average value, all sorts of things. And we got a toggle, which can also be like a flag. Useful for things like, well, I want this particular condition to go on, and then only when this other condition cancels it out do I want that condition to be canceled out. So that's what a toggle is great for. Okay, so actually let's go in and start demoing some of these function nodes. Okay, so let's go in and look at the counting node, and I'm just going to find the right chart here. All right. ADX. Okay, I think I'll just use any old chart. So I'm going to use this chart actually. Okay, so I've got the SMA 30 here in turquoise, and let me just clear that so that we get a clean slate here. And I'll start with adding BloodHound. Okay, open up the real-time interface, and let's start with just indicator comparison. against the, let's look at the, again, we're going to look at, what I'm just going to do here is paint it green whenever I'm above the 38 SMA and red when I'm below. So I'm going to be comparing the closing price to the 30 SMA. And as you can see now, just to verify, so whenever the price is above the 30 SMA, I'm green. Whenever I'm below, I'm red. Okay? So let's save that. I'll call that, let's call it Workshop 30. Right? I guess not the most descriptive name. Zach would probably kill me because he likes to tell people, all right, make sure that you always label your solver so you know what you're doing. So let's do that here. This is closing versus 30 SMA, right? And what I'm going to do is leave that guy up there so that we can compare it. So I'm going to actually open up another instance of BloodHound, run two of them on the same chart. The one below, I'm actually just going to open up that last one so that we have it here. So it's just asking me to update. All right. Okay. So I've got two identical instances of BloodHound up there. And what I'm going to do with the bottom one is show you this new counting node. So the idea behind the counting node is, you probably guessed, is to count. So these are all signals. Okay, so I've actually got the terminology. These are confidence values that are high enough to be considered signals because they're above 1. Okay, so you can see that on the long side here, I'm above 1 here, and as soon as we go below the 30, we signal on the short side because we're now above, or say below -1 if I want to be mathematically correct. But you can see how now on the long side there's no signals and indeed no confidence values at all. Okay, so I'm going to add our new shiny signal counter, and I'm going to plug that in. And so what this is, and this, I mean, this is kind of deceiving, but what this really is here is it's counting 3. In this case, I'm counting 3 bars before I signal. Okay, so if you look here, I am above the 30 SMA for 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bars. And then on the bottom here, now that I've got the counter hooked up, it gives me a signal only when I've got 3 bars or 3 signals in a row. Okay, so I've got 3 signals in a row up here. I've got finally a signal firing off on the counter. So that's what the counter does, and I'm just going to illustrate that by putting it to a digital so we don't get any of those other values there. But now, you know, so essentially you can think of it as, you know, maybe you don't want to signal the fire until you're at least three bars. You know, you've seen 3 bars above a particular moving average. You do it quite easily. So you just throw in a signal counter, and you don't get your signal here until your 3rd bar. That's all fine and dandy, but you know, what are we going to do with all these signals? We got, you know, a signal after signal after signal after signal. That's probably going to wreak a little bit of havoc on any auto-traded system. Because, you know, auto-traded systems do things like to the letter. So, you know, if you say you got to be long, you know, regardless of how many signals in a row, it's just going to keep trying to put you in long in the, you know, no matter how many times say you hit your stops or how many times you get out. So we have this new node called a signal blocker, which does kind of, it sounds like, which is the block signal after a signal has been taken. And it's specifically for instances like this when you want to eliminate duplicate signals, and this is the way to do it. It's just feed it into a signal blocker like so. And now we still have a couple signals coming afterwards. That's because I've got the reset on. But you can see that basically I've eliminated a tremendous number of signals here. And what I've got here is what's called a reset value which will kind of allow signals to come back through the pipe, if you will, after 5 bars have passed. So that's what this little value is here. So I'm just to make it a little clearer, I'm just going to set this blocked output so that any signals that were successfully blocked, I'm just going to put it half value so you can sort of see. You know, these little guys are actually the block signals. Okay, but we have something called a reset capability. Now, say for example, all right, I don't want to reset after 5 bars. In other words, I don't want more signals coming in. You know, let's just put that to a super high number there. Now you can see that we don't get signals at all, basically until the opposite side goes. You know, and that may be kind of what you want there. So what's going on here is, you know, we don't get a signal firing until we're three blocks above or 3 blocks below the 30 SMA, and you know, we simply don't get signals until the other side fires. That's what this is right here. So we can tell it, all right, you know, when the other side fires, when the opposite signal fires, reset the block so that we allow you to take a trade still in the opposite direction. So so that's a very quick way to do, you know, 3 blocks above moving average. And you know, those of you that are familiar with BloodHound will realize that this functionality was possible, but took a fair number of nodes to do. You know, you'd have to actually put in your nodes, an indicator comparison, I think 3 times, and then have to displace it back twice. So it was a fair bit of trouble, you know, and every time you had to check for another particular, for future nodes, you'd have to keep putting in more and more of the same solvers and displacing them backwards. So that's a nice kind of demonstration of both of those working in concert with each other. So I'm just going to go here and read through the comments and the questions. And unfortunately, just so you guys know that just with the with GoToMeeting, what you type in doesn't actually show to other people unless I kind of explicitly go in and respond to it and share it. But let's see here. We've got Richard B. asks, can I use it with an HMA indicator that changes color when up or down and makes a strategy buy or sell? Yeah, absolutely, Richard. Well, actually, before I go on with that, the HMA indicator that changes color, the answer is it depends, actually. So BloodHound does support any third-party indicators, custom indicators that you may have been downloaded or coded yourself. The caveat is, though, the indicator has to sort of play nice in terms of it has to share its data. Not all indicators or third-party authors will actually share the data. And NinjaTrader has a specific way that they share data. So if it kind of conforms to that, the NinjaTrader standards, no problem at all. You'll be able to read that data in and incorporate it. Chances are, if your HMA is changing color, I'm willing to bet it's probably changing color. You know, am I right in saying it's probably the change in slope that it's measuring, or something to that effect? If that's the case, BloodHound's got something built in right to do that anyway, and in fact I'll be demoing something like that with the ADX indicator. So you don't technically need that custom indicator with the color changer. Just, you know, to make it work with BloodHound, you can just use the stock HMA and plug it into a change the slope. And Richard, yeah, okay, so that's the case. Yeah, for sure. That's very easy to do. In fact, let me just show you real quick here. So, like, I just select a change in slope, and just plug it into the HMA. That's pretty much it. So here's my HMA, and you know, the outputs, you can kind of fiddle with them however you like. But in BloodHound, basically, one output, it means strong in that direction, means it's a good good. Basically, all the outputs go from 0 to 1, and you can almost think of them as percentages, right? So 1 would be 100%. That means 100% in that direction. So essentially, if the indicator is changing aggressively in that slope direction, 1's a great value. And Zach actually covered this last week with last week's webinar, which I just put up. So I won't go into depth of this, but just so you know, it's all there. And if you want to see past webinars, just go to our website and click the webinar link. It's right up there. Okay, so Bruce Lambert, thanks Bruce, thanks for the compliment. Reset values will also, Randy asks, reset value will also be a useful feature on Signal Blocker. Can we use other logic to reset the blocker? You can use any logic to plug into the reset logic, the reset ability. So if you notice that some now have a reset, and you plug pretty much anything you want into it. Again, if it's a signal, you can decide as well, not only plug in whatever logic to it, but you can decide what to do when there's a signal or no signal. And the resets sort of behave they behave kind of what you would expect them to be. So in a signal blocker, the reset basically stops the blocking and continues off as if it wasn't blocked. That's useful for I don't know, say you're blocking a signal and something comes in that looks like a fantastic trade. You've got to be in that direction, kill the block, just put it to the reset. It'll kill the block so that you make sure your system gets you in there. Signal counter, same sort of idea. You're counting off, 1, 2, 3, say 1, 2, 3 bars. Say you want to reset the count for whatever reason. You could plug that into the reset node. So there's the little reset there. And then let me just show you what I mean. You can just throw anything you like into it. So here, now that's a reset condition. So I have no idea what that actually means, but if you go in and you work with your reset, you can sort of cancel out, if you will, the counting effect using any arbitrary logic. So for example, we could use a cross back over in your example to reset. Absolutely, you sure could. You would create another, let's make a cross over here, like so. Let's just say it's a 1030 cross. All right, and say we want to kill the block when there's a 1030 cross in your direction. All right, so with that 1030 cross, okay. And let's add the 1030 over here, and let's say there's a cross in the in this case it's actually the opposite direction. Reset it. So we can do one or two things. We can change this and say actually no, this is kind of what we would expect. Yeah. So for example, all right. So here's our original condition was 3 blocks above or three bars above go in. Hey, but if we get a crossover long as well, don't unblock that signal. Let us in again. So this is kind of what that second entry is, and see the cross just happened just before. I think technically it crossed right there. So that is the reset value. Okay. Okay, John McKenzie is just saying my voice is being distorted. I'm looking at my mic levels and it looks like I'm a little high. Is everyone else okay? Can you guys all hear me all right? Richard B. asks, what about third-party or Ninja indicator that uses an arrow or a dot? Okay, yeah, Bruce is saying I'm occasionally overloading the mic, so I will maybe talk a little softer, move the mic away just a bit here. Okay. All right, how's that, guys? Okay, pardon me. Maybe I'll see if I can lower the gain just a bit. Oh, appears it's sort of on autopilot here. Anyway, yeah. So Richard, and we actually have a specific little video on that, how to find out whether or not the indicator is actually supported with BloodHound, and that's again, yeah, if it's just drawing stuff on the chart, then technically that's not shared data. There's specific sort of data structures that the indicator has to fill in for any kind of custom coded or for anything else to read it on sort of a programmatic level. And if it doesn't do that, then you know, we can't read that. Oh, by the way, Anna, this is a little. I remember a while ago you asked about this. This is months ago, but we did add a 1.6, and that is now the ability to nest and select your plots. So this is the plot screen here. Or sorry, the indicator selection screen, and under we've got one called SI Chameleon, and this little guy is actually quite useful for bringing in other time frames and whatnot, and like putting them into your indicator. So, you know, for example, if you want to compare the HMA 20 on the 5-minute chart versus the 3-minute chart or something like that, you know, you would actually use this guy as your input, and I would nest it like so. Okay, so this is telling BloodHound, all right, take the input, take SI Chameleon, which is another indicator that we developed and it's included with Blood, and you know, say for example, you know, do this on the 4-minute chart, and now you can select various plots in your nested indicator, which is something we didn't support before. We let you sort of select your plot on the parent indicator, but not the actual nested indicator. So, you know, I can go in here and say I want the you know, I want the high value and the low value on the 4-minute chart from the last 5 bars or something like that. Plug that into the HMA, and I want that to be my indicator. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility here. You can mix and match data from different time frames, and you can nest indicators together very easily just by hitting this nest input button, and virtually come up with any kind of data input that you can conjure up. And a subtle distinction for those of you guys that are really sharp and paying attention is because I mean, you guys know that, yeah, we can add new time frames in here, and actually when you have these particular solvers or these indicators from these solvers, they're just running under that context, right? So they're running under the, in this case, this is the 5 range, and if I move this guy down here, now that's running on the 1-minute range. But one thing that we couldn't do before was compare say indicators from different time frames from each other. So say I wanted to bring the SMA 10 from the 5-minute chart and compare that against the SMA 30 from the 1-minute chart, something like that. Like that was something we couldn't do. We couldn't sort of split time frames and compare indicators from different time frames against each other. And now you can do that just using SI Chameleon. And just and I digress too much, and I apologize if I'm losing some of you people, but we eventually plan to not have to make you do this extra step here, and instead just make it so that you can select right here, somewhere around here, maybe even up here, what time frame the SMA 10 is going to be on. Just further simplifying things for you. And so Randy says, yeah, so with SI Chameleon we can pretty much do most things on just one chart. Exactly. So you can bring in data from any chart, and basically from any chart, in fact any instrument if you want, and compare it with any other instrument. Okay, so let's move on here and let's talk about the signal extender. And I've got a specific little chart set up somewhere around here. There we go. All right, so I've got here a 5 range chart, and I'm going to pull up a 5 chart. Okay, so let's just pretend that you got these rules here. Okay, so let's say you want on your 5-minute chart, you figure, all right, if I had just freshly crossed through this 100 EMA, I'm going to give my system a 5-bar window to trade long. Okay, so on the 5-minute chart. Okay, so you want to be able to trade for 5 bars. Like you say, you give yourself a 5-bar window after a fresh cross, like just when it crosses, to go long, and likewise to go short. And if this looks kind of scary, by the way, guys, this is simulated data, so this is not the actual market. But say that was your rules. We can use what's called a signal extender. Okay, so just say that's your filter. Okay, your filter is the 5-minute on the EMA, but your actual entry, your timing, just say with a I've got here basically at 210. Okay, and I'm sticking with crossovers. I'm sticking with moving averages because that's kind of simplest stuff, rather than some of the more advanced indicators that some of you guys use. But for example, this is the 210 here, and say you want to be able to say I want to go long, but only 5 bars. That's as much I'm going to give it on the 100 EMA, and then I'm going to time the entry with the 5 range. Okay, so I'm going to go in here, and I've actually already added my 2 time frames here. So on my default, that's the 5 range, and I've got my 5-minute up there already. In fact, I've already got the 100 EMA cross. I'm just going to show you what that looks like, because I don't think I've got any logic templates defined. So I'm going to show you that this is the 100 EMA. Okay, and you can see that sorry, I'm just sort of thinking and talking at the same time. But you can see, yeah, I guess just because the way the range chart works, it doesn't actually give you a new bar until, or actually it gives you new bars. Sorry, whenever you get 5 ticks of movement. So in some cases, you're going to have a lot of bars where you just freshly crossed on the 5-minute, because this is a 5-minute. This is a big 5-minute period right here between these two, because I'd basically moved the trend up all the way up, and that's why it was quite aggressively moving. But these are the actual crosses. So you can see that we had a cross below. I think it looks like between this time frame and that time frame, this is a 5-minute period between 1040 and 44, which is this bar right here. And then we screamed back up and crossed, and that in the next 5 minutes we crossed above, and that's what this little guy is here. But you can see that these are, it's kind of hard to time these, especially if you're waiting for your actual entry. In this case, this would have matched. No, this wouldn't match. So we want to go short in this case. But we wouldn't have got anything here because there our trading time frame didn't cross kind of at the same time. So what we have here is called a signal extender, and this will allow you to extend the lifetime of a particular signal over more bars. So I guess I didn't realize when I did that how long these actual 5-minute periods would be. So let's go in and instead of say 5 bars, let's make it maybe 10 or 20 even, just so I can illustrate what I'm trying to talk about here. But let's start here with the 5-minute 100 EMA cross here. So I'm going to plug that back in, and I'm going to sort of thrust that trend down so we can start to get something to happen there. But say we got our 210 cross as well, and that's kind of our entry signal. And you can see those only occur in very discrete 1 bar kind of zones here, and we want to basically extend this signal here on this larger time frame chart so that we can time it up with with an entry on this side. So what we can do here is say we want to go with the, first of all, let me just show you what it looks like moving together. All right, so chances are probably won't get any signals at all because they don't time up. It's very hard. It's very times up together. you're looking at, again, very discrete points of time, very discrete signals. And so this is the motivation behind the signal extender. And let me first, all the stuff right now is kind of pre-based, so this is all development work. So if anything goes funny on us, just I can sort of go back to the excuse that this is, again, just kind of really early work here. But here we go. Here's signal extender. In a situation, I think we'll probably just extend the 100 EMA, and just to take a look what that looks like. Okay, so one here is I've actually extended the 100 EMA signal for an extra bar. So I'll go back here, play 100 EMA by itself. You can see that you know, we've actually got a fairly long signal, but say I need it longer, I need the extend, I can go and plug it into the extender, and I get an extra 5 bars now on the other side. And we got some fancy abilities here to decay them as well. Okay, so this is that last signal, and I basically told BloodHound to start decaying it over time. You know, this is again kind of working into the whole fuzzy logic capabilities of BloodHound, and you can certainly use those to sort of create kind of more discretionary soft type entries. You know, when you sort of combine these signals together, you know, the computers can be so digital sometimes. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not a good thing. A lot of these trading coaches will tell you, hey, you got to be, you know, it's got to be yes or no, on or off. But let me tell you, I've seen a lot of discretionary traders that are very successful at you know, having solid rules, but also, you know, putting discretion into their trading in terms of you know, having some soft rules as well. And these soft rules, you know, they make the difference between, like, you know, sometimes these auto trading systems cannot compete with these guys because, you know, they're just too digital sometimes. So BloodHound, we've got this ability to not just have this kind of on or off situation, but the ability to give you kind of intermediary values, and that's why we call them confidence values, okay? Because they're not on or off values; they're confidence values, and that's why they range from 0 to 1. So that you can sort of build your system around this idea of building up confidence in this direction, building up confidence in the short direction, the long direction, and when you have enough confidence over a certain threshold, take the trade. So that's again the motivation behind having these soft values, if you will. So on the right hand side, I'm just sort of waiting for it to get down here. But what I'm going to try to do here is dip below for 1 bar and then pop back up and sort of show you the extended signal. But I think you can sort of get it. We've got these other modes here. This is a exponential kind of drift off, if you will. We've got a logarithmic as one as well. But we can stick with the pure digital one. But that's the motivation again behind the signal extender. If there's any sort of need for you to help time it, say a particular trade on 2 different time frames, sometimes you need to actually extend the signal on one side, or maybe there's other needs for, you know, maybe you like to you know, have a trade permissive and you only want to go for a certain number of bars, or maybe go to, you know, some other condition happens. That's where the reset comes in. Let me just take a peek here. The 5. So we've got to wait till this bar closes, unfortunately, and that's going to be another 5 minutes. So while I guess that's happening, let me transition here onto the what we call the long and short manipulator. Okay, so so who was that asked about the Richard, right? Richard asked, I think, about the Richard asked about the change in slope. Okay, so if you so on this chart here, I've got the ADX. Okay, and the ADX is a special indicator in that it's non-directional. And for the most part, a lot of Bloodhound's stuff actually relies on, not relies on, but almost assumes, I guess you could say, that the indicator is directional. Okay, so ADX is non-directional. It just measures the strength of a trend. It doesn't tell you which direction it's going, but we have a couple indicators like that out there. I think the CCI is one. I'm sure there's a ton of them that Zach could list off on the top of his head, but I'm not as versed with as him and different indicators. But basically, the ADX it tells you when there's a strong trend in a particular direction. It doesn't tell you which direction, but if the strength of the trend is good, you're typically above a particular threshold. So that's what this kind of purple line here is. That's a threshold. So, you know, a lot of you guys may actually be using the ADX as kind of a permissive to enter in maybe a trending market. And again, it's non-directional. So what if you wanted to analyze the change in slope of the ADX? Okay, not just the slope, but the change in slope. Okay, that is it accelerating or is it decelerating? It's very difficult to see that. It's practically impossible, actually. I mean, unless you had a color-coded indicator like Richard was bringing up, it's virtually impossible to do that. So what I do here is I've added a change in slope indicator, and I put the ADX on it. And as you can see, as it's going up, as it's it's turning direction and it's increasing, that's accelerating. We got a nice long output. And then when it starts to decrease, which is so super subtle there, but you can see that there's that one bar where it kind of starts to flatten out a little bit. Very, very subtle. It's still a positive slope, but it is actually turning, but you can barely see it. Bloodhound picks that up, and you can see that the long output is sort of tapered off a bit. You know, it's especially good here. As you can see that it's tapering off. See this section here? You can see that it's tapered off. It's tapered off, and you know, by the time it gets to this point, that's an inflection point. Actually, it's actually switched slope from positive to negative there. You can see that Bloodhound has correctly identified that it's going the other direction. Of course, that makes absolutely no sense with the ADX because the ADX is not a directional indicator. But maybe you are interested in the change of slope of the ADX. But you don't want, you want to know, when it's increasing and whatnot, and you want to apply that. When it's increasing, that's good for you. Okay, then maybe whatever your criteria is, maybe it's good for you because you're looking for a start of a trend. So when it's increasing, you actually want a trade permissive to go in both directions, not just the long side. So that's what we got here. We got just the long side being, if you're sort of close one eye, if you will, cover short side down here like that. Say that's what you want. You want the long side, except you want the permission to go in both directions, not just the short side. You want it, you want it to look just like this. Okay, so that's again when the ADX is increasing in value. Say that's good for you. So what we can do now is take the solver, add what's called a long-short modifier, and this is kind of a utility node. It does a lot of different things. The default thing is to swap it, which is again not very useful for us. But let's say I want to mirror it. I mirror the long side. I just go mirror like so. And now you can see whenever the ADX is increasing, meaning the trend is starting to take foot, I've got permission to take the trade in either direction. So that's what that's one tiny use, I guess you could say, of this particular function node. So I sort of came up with some of these uses, and of course the one thing I love about systems like this is when I unleash into the wild, like you folks come up with stuff that I would never dream up in 1,000 years, which is always exciting to see. So it goes without saying. Zach even he uses this software. I build the software and he uses it, tests it, and supports you guys. And he's at a point where he actually knows how to use it a lot better than I do, which sounds kind of funny because as a developer you think I should know everything, but if you consider for a moment, say the developers of Adobe Photoshop, it doesn't mean they're the best artists in the world. They just know how to build the tools. The people that are really going to make this product sing are you guys. You guys are going to come up with uses for it that probably I'll never even thought of. DAW asks, are these features available now? These are just in beta at the moment. And they're going to be released with 1.1, which, I'd say conservatively probably October, September, October. Yeah, October. We're going to be releasing 1.06 first, and then, like that, I'll probably have this functionality out there in some form in a beta link that you can download. Just again to be aware that this is a beta, and this is still fairly preliminary. But obviously, before we release anything, we like to have had it tested and sort of out in the wild for a little bit. Yeah, exactly, Randy. Yeah, so I make the building blocks, and Zach actually builds something useful out of it. So that's kind of how we work. And obviously you guys, of course, build something useful out of this. You guys build real trading systems here. Okay, so I've got a couple. I'm just going to show you here. And because this is fairly preliminary, if you have any feedback, I mean, I'd love to hear it. And if there's certain things that you'd like to see, and in fact, actually, if you want to beta test this, all right, now just a caveat, right? Because this is very preliminary, there are things that could change with it that will actually, could break your current system. So no, please don't. If we get to a point where I start kind of giving this out to people who do ask for it, which by the way won't be right away. It still needs some fine tuning before I even get to that stage. But if I do, there'll be times where things change with the file format. Then maybe you worked on something, you load it up, it doesn't load anymore. Exactly. Even this morning had that issue. And it's something I won't be making sort of fixes for those things, just because things are kind of still moving about, moving pieces and whatnot. If you are testing this as a beta and just trying it out, make sure you're not doing on your production systems and you're not actually attempting to trade real money with it for certainly for God's sakes, because again it's not quite ready for that yet. But if you'd like to just fool around with the features and whatnot, we'd be more than happy to give you a link to it when it's available. Just shoot me an email at jeremytang@sharkindicators.com, or just go to our support and ask for it. Here's another thing I have here. It's called a look back. This lets you do things like displacement. So that's one use for it. So for example, I've got here. Actually, I might have a chart with two. I think I had a chart with two bloodhounds on there somewhere. And that'll be a little easier to illustrate. Here we go. Okay, let's refresh this guy. All right. So on this bottom one, this is the top one, and let me just make them identical again. So we're sort of dealing with apples and apples. Okay, so I looked at the top one is just the CL. That's kind of interesting. Let's just find something a little more interesting. Let's try that. Okay, so that one's got to reload. That one's going to reload. All right, reload. Okay, so now they're identical. All right, and you see the top and the bottom one identical. And let me just replicate that. Okay, it's just, pardon me guys, I'm just going to throw together something real quick here, just so that we got something with here. Okay, so that's the top. Oops, let's throw that. Oh, I got indicator crossover to make. These are these different ones. This is the 1030. What's this one here? This is another 1030. Okay, so we got duplicate ones going yet. All right, so yeah, okay, so now you can see the top and the bottom are the same. And let me just duplicate that over here. Crossover. Oops, we don't need an inflection. Right. Ratio node. Okay. All right. Voila. Okay. Right. So the top and the bottom are now the same. Okay. For sure, Bruce. I'll let you in on the beta testing there if you want. So I'm going to add a look node, which kind of goes back. Let's see historical, I guess previous signals. And so immediately what I've got here is the look back node is sort of defaulted to a displacement, and you can see everything I've now just displaced by 1 bar. Okay, so I've got the bars kind of all shifted by 1. Where would you use something like this? Well, I'm sure you guys can come up with way more creative examples than I can. But displacements were useful for things like you want to align something from, say, another time frame with another time frame, and you need to shift it about a little bit for whatever reason. That's where displacements can happen. I don't know, like, yeah, I guess I think I'll just leave it at that. I mean, I'll build a tool, and and you guys can come up with the creative ways to use it. Another neat thing about this is I can increase look back period a little bit here, and now it's not looking at one signal back, but actually averaging them over 5 bars. And you sort of think of this logic as like, well, if the trade was pretty good for the last 5 bars, then yeah, I want to I want to carry that forward by 1 bar to to create a new signal for the going forward. So that's kind of what the look back will let you do. Again, it's inspecting kind of values, past signals. We got this neat one with toggle. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of like plug that in. So this is kind of like a toggle is kind of like a light switch. You can flip it on when a certain condition happens, and you flip it off when a certain condition happens. So you could use it sort of, say you've got some logic in there that looks for a market condition that's kind of non-cycling or something, or sorry, you say you got a market condition that's really ugly, it's all choppy, it's all over the place, you want to shut down all your trades. Okay, so you got some logic in there that looks for this using whatever indicators you use to look for the choppy stuff, and when the choppy stuff is over, you want to switch it on. You want to put your trade engine back on. So that's what toggle is kind of useful for. And it's pretty much just kind of like a like, it's no specific use for it. It's just for things like that. So if you need to kind of hold a signal, I guess, through, or hold a condition or a state. Say your trading system's kind of got states in it. You need to hold a state for a particular amount of time. You could have it, say, again, toggle on or switch on or force it on. When a certain input thing comes in, force it off. When the signal comes in the reset. So unfortunately, I don't have anything prepared for the toggle for a good example, because just sort of short on time here. But if you could sort of imagine, again, it's sort of a kind of like a state machine, if you will. And if you're a programmer, if you kind of like think in that sort of terms and the logic, you'll really appreciate the toggle, because it allows you to create essentially state machines that go into different states whenever you feel like it. And that again is it's subtle, but it's extremely powerful. It opens up a lot of doors, and it's now at the point where literally anything that you could have done in code, you can literally do using these nodes. Randy asks, yeah, for sure, yeah, beta is beta. It's again, beta products, the functionality and the file format even is subject to change over time. So again, don't do any production work with it, because you might not be able to load it up the next day when you use an update with the beta. So I tend to try to, when I release the beta to the public, I tend to do it when it's like very close to release. Where we're just making sure there's no showstoppers in there. So it's usually in those situations I try not to do things that would break other people's systems. But nonetheless, that's just a warning I just like to give to everybody, just so they just so they know, because it can happen. Okay, so Randy also asks, so look-back mode, if average, could indicate general strength of a signal. Yeah, absolutely. Like going back with the whole idea again, it's confidence values you're dealing with, and perhaps you had a second and pass there. With the last couple bars, you had some good strength, let's take the change in slope, for example. Um, maybe you're looking for, not exactly, actually that's a great example. Let's try that. So I'm gonna create a change in slope, all right? And let's tie that to let's say the SMA 10, because that one's pretty jaggedy. It seems to go up and down. It's not a smooth one. So let's do an SMA 10. All right. And I'll add it to the top one as well, just so that we can compare. All right. So here's the SMA 10 on the top, and I'm just going to use the SMA 10 only on the top here, just so we can start with kind of a clean slate. Okay, so this is the change in slope with the SMA 10. Okay, and say, all right, you're thinking, all right, I don't necessarily need it to be strong for 5 bars in a row. That's pretty rare. I mean, look at this. You only get this, when you got this really strong downtrend, right? That's when you get, a change in slope, in your direction favorable for a long time. Okay, but it's quite rare, as you can see. You say you're like, well, I mean, really, I'm okay with just 3 bars. That's good. And as long as it kind of like 3 bars, and obviously you'd be playing with these values until you're happy. But say as long as you got 3 bars on average, we're above a certain threshold, I'm okay with that. So still that. Let's change slope through the look back, right? And now I'm averaging 5 bars in this case. But actually, let's say we do that, and let's kill the displacement. But now you can sort of see that. It's a little bit slower on the uptake because you're averaging the past. But say let's maybe make that 3 bars. Say you're good with I want 3 bars that are I want the last 3 bars to be more or less good before considering that a good change in slope. But that's kind of what the look lets you do. And of course, we have these the ability here to really tweak it here. So I can go in and I can use a multiplier to even sort of increase that or decrease that influence. But again, yeah, that's a great idea, Randy. We could probably do something like that. Randy's asked, so I could nest toggles to simulate stage 1, stage 2, etc. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, those of you that have a computer science background will note that if you have kind of toggle states, essentially you've got a state machine, and it's mathematically possible to prove that you can build any kind of logic out of that with state machines. State machines are very powerful. Well, I mean, your computer actually is a state machine. It's a very, very extremely complicated state machine, but nonetheless you could reduce it to a state machine. And some of the forefathers of computer science, Alan Turing, basically mathematically proved that with state machines, with a state machine, you could solve any sort of logic that was solvable in a certain realm. Okay, so those are the function nodes. And actually, I'm doing pretty good with time. I noticed that one thing with Zach is he likes to really go in depth, and he'll stretch this webinar all the way up to noon. Whereas I'm pretty much wrapping up here. So I've got a couple more function nodes on the drawing board here. One's called a truth table, which is actually a great suggestion from one of our users. And a truth table, you can sort of think of it as like, so you've got, I don't know, 20 inputs. It could be anything, actually. You get 20 inputs, and you're like, I want input 3, 6, 7, and 10. When it's strong, I want a 1. I want a strong output. And basically, how would you construct that? That's actually fairly complex logic. So with a truth table, you'd just be able to kind of open up this table, if you will, and say, when this input is 1, I want a 1, right? And so you can literally just create almost like a grid, a truth grid, of what you want. Certain signals fire off, and you want an output to be 1. It's like those of you that are kind of programmers will appreciate it. It's almost like a very complex switch statement. We're also working on a math node, which will allow you to type in arbitrary formulas, and the math nodes, there'll be 2 of them actually. One will deal with the signal inputs, and another one will actually deal with indicator inputs. So imagine what the indicator inputs. I'm not sure, you guys might have heard of the ultimate indicator. Somebody out there wrote it and actually was giving away for, actually I don't know if it's free or not, but I think they stopped development on it. But it was a really neat indicator, and it was one that you could actually type in a formula of any sort, and you can bring in instruments from different time frames and different whatnot, and you can create a formula, and then it'll output that as basically an indicator. By the way, I believe that one you can just, if you have it, you can actually plug that right into BloodHound.work. But we are working. Our idea is to create a arbitrary math node that will let you do the same thing, basically creating data or using any kind of indicator data and using whatever math you'd like to from that data, and crafting any kind of output you want. Yeah, absolutely. That's the idea, Randy, is definitely to eliminate any kind of roadblocks you have to developing your system. Oh yeah, and one very popular node that I get occasionally, for those of you that have been doing some back testing, and you only want your say your trades to be tested over a certain period of time, like obviously the market opens when the market's actually open, rather than when it's closed, without messing up your indicators. Because I don't know if you know, but if you've done any kind of like market or strategy analyzing, and you try to use the session templates, it'll actually chop off your data. Say you're you want your you want only to trade during the market when the market's open. It'll actually chop off the data, so you don't even get the data from the market close. But those things will actually affect your indicators, because your indicators are relying on that data to calculate the next value. So you get these jumps. And so yeah, I mean, you can stop your trades in your historical backtest. You can stop your trades so you're off. When you're not trading in you're in off market hours, but all your indicators get messed up. So what we're going to do is have a solver that lets you select the time frames that you want to the time frames that you want to trade, so that you can keep your sort of best of both worlds. You can have it so that you're not analyzing historical trades and when you don't want to be, but you also have, it doesn't mess up your indicators. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I think that's basically it for new nodes that we're working on. And now I'm just going to conclude with the licensing changes that we are coming up with. So we did a poll for those people that didn't actually buy BloodHound to find out what was the main reason why. And the number one reason was it was not only that they found that there's certain things in BloodHound that they couldn't implement, but people are busy. 30 days was just not enough to test their strategy out in BloodHound, and typically, and I can sympathize. I'm actually a father too now, and my time is unbelievably limited now. And certainly if you're trading and you're researching and that sort of thing, time is short. So 30 days goes by like nothing. So a 30-day trial was not adequate, and I thought about it for a while, and I think NinjaTrader has the right idea, and we're sort of going to follow in their footsteps a little bit here, and now make the trial period unlimited. So you can now use BloodHound, and this is, I'll get into this, but this will be implemented in 1.06. So the 30-day trial is still in place, but what we're planning on doing is actually making the trial unlimited in time. but just with a small restriction there that you're able to backtest just up to 30 days, and run it in simulation mode. So if you're going to be trading in real with real money and whatnot, obviously we still have to pay our bills, and we want to reinvest with the profits into creating better product for you guys. We just ask that you actually purchase the actual product before trading with real money. So previous to that, all the current customers, we've been telling people, right, when you buy BloodHound, you actually have a license, a lifetime license to version 1. And the plan was sort of to, as we continue with upgrades and we create, more functionality, we would create, new versions in which we would ask users to if they would like to, optionally, to pay an upgrade fee for. So we're going to abolish all that, and again, this is very similar to what NinjaTrader does. Is there will be no need to upgrade. Pay, you always will get the latest version, or you always have access to the latest version, no matter what version that is. And that's going to go with current customers who again we've told that upgrades were sort of above and beyond. So now the idea is now current customers will now be upgraded to a lifetime license for whatever version that we're on, and sort of in lieu of the price, or sort of the upgrade revenue, we're just simply going to increase the cost for BloodHound, to compensate for that. And those of you that have purchased BloodHound, and probably for the next little while, we're going to keep the price the same. And those of you that are purchased at that sort of reduced price are going to be able to enjoy that, enjoy the full benefits of lifetime, without having to pay for upgrades and whatnot. We're just going to grandfather you in. So that's just, again, a thanks for being there and jumping on kind of early with us. And we hope the sort of the additional value that we provide you, we hope that you enjoy that. But kind of going forward, anybody else that wants to use BloodHound, again, to compensate for the lack of upgrade fees, we'll be increasing the price. And we plan on doing this with the 1.06 release, which I'd like to say will probably be next week, or maybe the week after. So it's going to be kind of around that time, but very soon. And I think last week I told you that we're going to be hosted by NinjaTrader in a webinar on September 1st. Turns out there's a bit of a miscommunication. That date's actually September 8th. So if you're new to BloodHound and you're interested in kind of more, again, like sort of this workshop, I sort of went through and assumed that you had a certain base level understanding of BloodHound. So those of you that are new may have, don't be afraid if you're a little confused, because I didn't kind of go over the basics, or even what can BloodHound do for you. You might want to be interested in attending that webinar. That's going to be on the 8th. NinjaTrader will announce. Just make sure you're on their mailing list, and that will be a webinar that deals with kind of what is BloodHound and what can it do for you. Kind of more of a high level look at what it does. So with that, I'm pretty much done. So that's all I had planned for today. And I've got some great comments from great compliments from you guys, and I thank you for them. But let me just see if any of these are questions here. Okay, so John Adams asks, I'm trading in sim accounts but have a live license from Ninja. Will the new offer work in sim account with a live license in Ninja program? So the way it's going to work is NinjaTrader has a global simulation mode. Okay, and when it's on, you cannot trade real money. When it's off, you can trade real money, and you can only turn it off if you actually have a full license. I think on this, I'm on a VMware at the moment. I don't even think I have. Oops. Let's see if I don't think I have the full license on here on this particular computer. So yeah, I'm on a sim right now. So see, as you can see, I can't even click it off. So So John, you just, now that you have the full version of NinjaTrader, you actually have the ability now to just click this off and see the trade real money. So so basically what BloodHound will do is just it'll look for that condition to see if you're in simulated mode or not. And if you have a trial version, then basically simulated mode it'll be required to be on for it to work. Okay, I think that's. I'm just gonna scroll here, just take one last look here, but apologize for the extra noise in the office here. We share an office with a couple other folks, and sometimes it's empty here and sometimes it's noisy. So. Yeah, that looks like everything. And thank you guys for the compliments. Hey, I'm just gonna put that out there. But if you guys are, finding BloodHound is great for your needs, and would like to recommend to a friend and whatnot, obviously I'd be glad that you did so. But I just want to draw your attention to kind of a little hidden thing that we put up here. And I only sort of give this out to usually to partners and whatnot that ask for it specifically. But if you have a website, or if you know some friends, and we're willing to pay a bit of a commission as well for referrals, we have an affiliate program, and you just go to our website. It's hidden. You just go sharkindicators/A. You go in and you can sign up as an affiliate. There's a link that you can send out for your email, or if your Facebook page or whatever. It's a specific link just for you, and basically what it does is our software can track. This is not my software, but this is an affiliate tracking software that we have that will track kind of who brought in the lead, and keep track of payout commissions based off that lead. So if you're interested in making a little bit of a buck, that's certainly one way we can offer to do that. So other than that, I think we'll leave it here for today. So this webinar is recorded, and thank you guys for attending. And again, we'll have our regularly scheduled webinar next week. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys later.